The Man Whore Podcast is sponsored by HotMovies.com. Try out some ethical, paid-for porn for free with none of those hidden fees or secret subscriptions when you sign up at HotMovies.com and use the promo code MANWHORE. Now let's get to the show.
Welcome to the Man Whore Podcast.
Shout out to all the other hungover whores out there. Oh my gosh, my head hurts. This is Billy Procida, and you are listening to the Man Whore Podcast. Oi, anyone else wake up in Columbia, Missouri and just be like, oh, well, that was a night. Welcome to the Sex Positive Podcast hosted by a comedian that's not a comedy show. This week on the pod, we actually have a jam-packed show this week. I've got three. It's a triple threat. We got three people I'm excited to intro you to. The main guest this week, the main attraction, the Conor McGregor of the episode, lingerie expert Cora Harrington. I cannot wait to share her with y'all in a little bit. And then we're going to hear from Jessie Sage, who's an adult content creator, phone sex operator, professional sexter. We're going to hear from her a little bit. And look, I know some of you like to skip Cast That Porn, but this is like my favorite edition of Cast That Porn because I brought back, Tinder Tales host David Piccolamini. We riff so well together, or he riffs really well in front of me. I'm not too sure, but this is one you don't necessarily want to skip. But all that jam-packed action in an episode means I'm going to try to shut my face a little bit more, and we're going to go right on along the show dates, people. Show dates. Yes, Los Angeles. January 28th, I'm at the Santa Monica Hostel and Flights Beer Bar. Okay, January 29th, I'm at Sycamore Tavern upstairs in the Dojo of Comedy. So come catch me while I'm on the West Coast. I also want to give a shout out to some whoreheads who showed up at the Pittsburgh show. What up? Thank you for the good drinks, the good laughs, the good conversations. So a shout out to Charlie, to Amy, to Brian, and to the siblings. Okay. I know I sometimes forget to tell y'all, but you can email me with your comments, your questions, your titty pictures, your disgruntlements at manwhorepod@gmail.com. Love to hear from you, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. It's just something to start my day so I don't have to just stare at the ceiling and contemplate what I'm doing with my life. That's what a road trip is for. Okay, so first person join us on the show this week. We got Jessie Sage. She is one of the co-hosts of the Peep Show podcast. She sexts. She does phone sex professionally, not just, for her own entertainment. And we did a great bonus episode coming out tomorrow on Patreon. And she's coming on right here just to tell you a little bit more about what we talked about. So let's go peep in on Jessie Sage. All right, I'm here with Jessie Sage, phone sex operator, adult content creator, we can say, writer, academic, sex work advocate. I don't know how you put all the hats on at the same time, but as I hit your microphone.
Yeah.
But
I'm good at balance.
Yeah. We just recorded a really awesome bonus episode. Really cool conversation, learning a lot more about phone sex and how that works and kind of the ins and outs of it. How did you get into phone sex again?
A friend of mine suggested it. I was in camming and wasn't really finding my footing there, and she told me to try it out. So I did. And the first day I was like, I can do this till I die.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was amazing.
What was it about that was so you that camming kind of didn't do?
I like the one-on-one. So being able to have a very in-depth one-on-one conversation with one person was really fulfilling for me in ways that camming wasn't. I don't know. I also think that when you get rid of the visual component of smut, there's also a way that you can tap into other parts of yourself that is really fulfilling.
Yeah. Is there an example of that?
Yeah, so I think that there's something really exciting about describing exactly what you want in the words that you want. It's more psychological than, I don't know, my experience of camming was very different. I mean, I have all respect for cam models, but when I cammed, I would have people say things like, stand up, turn around, show me your ass, I want to see your tits. And like that was so like not that exciting to me, but instead,
so basic.
Yeah.
But also, like, that's one person making a request, but another person be like, no, sit down, spread your legs, show us your twat. Like, I can't do them both at the same time, guys.
Yeah, right.
Make a decision as a group.
Right. That is exactly what it felt like. Show me your toes. No, stand up. No, sit down. No, turn around. And I was like, oh my God, this is so crazy. So, being able to have a conversation with one person and talk to them about like what they really want and why they want it and what that means to them was just more interesting to me.
A lot of people have asked me, like, who want to get into whether it's camming or phones, they want to try to get sugar babying, whatever. A lot of people come to me and they're just like, I want to do something easier than my job. And I don't think they realize how hard a work
that's crazy
it
talk.
all is. I mean, like, I think the work itself is a little bit more fun for a lot of people who do it. Not everybody, but a lot of people who do it. But the getting the client, all that stuff it's not an easy gig.
No, it's not an easy gig at all. And it's like constant. You never really stop. If you're not doing the work, you have to be marketing the work and you have to be keeping up a social media profile and a presence and you have to make yourself into like kind of a micro celebrity in order to have, in order to make it successfully, like in order to make it financially solvent.
And I think a lot of people think, oh, well, I could do like phone sex or sexting or something like that. Or even like, camming with masks. But at the same time, it's like to market it, you have to put pictures of yourself.
Right.
Like I mean, I think I remember talking
and it's a lot of risk. You close a lot of doors when you do that and you open other ones. And the ones that you open, like for me personally, are ones that I wanted to go through, but you put yourself out there. Yeah.
Well, I guess the other thing I was curious about is like, how does one, I mean, a lot of people are curious about, how do you start doing phone sex or sexting for money?
So I started on Night Flirt, and you have to really learn how to work this like archaic system that is Night Flirt. Okay. So I think that the first thing is that's a good place to go if you don't already have a following. So right now I work a lot on Sex Panther, but Sex Panther, you have to drive your own traffic too. So I can do that now because I'm several years into this career path.
You have a fan base.
I have a fan base, but at the beginning I didn't, and when you just start off, you need to be on a place that has their own traffic. And so Night Flirt is a place that has their own traffic and you can be like found. So you have to start there, I think, and you have to do it as often as you can and build up a client base of people who will be like faithful to you, even if you have to stop for a little bit and come back and they're excited to see you. But yeah, I mean, that takes time.
What, like,
I don't think you can jump into it and do it full time.
Right. Oh, yeah. You're not going to jump into it and pay your rent that month. I would say then, are there things that you did in your marketing of it in the beginning that you look back now and be like, oh, I could have done that better, or I shouldn't have done that, or?
I think that like just the quality of stuff that I do now is better, but that's something that you have to learn. My pictures are better. My posing is better. My marketing is more coherent, but I feel like I kind of think that you need to do that work for a period of time in order to find your way.
Like make the mistakes so you can just learn from them.
Yeah, and also so you can figure out what your branding is. I mean, there's a lot in sex work. A lot of people are talking all the time about branding, but I don't think that you can really have a sense of like what your branding is until you start doing the job. You could think like abstractly. I think also like a lot of fetishes like come to you that you don't necessarily consider. So, I mean, one of the things that a lot of people talk about is like, well, you need to market the things that you do. Well, how do you know what you do until you start doing those things and seeing what fits really comfortably and what is like kind of outside of your what you want to do. Okay. I don't know if that makes any sense.
A little bit. Yeah, I think there's a lot of like things just people don't think about. Like I said, I think people say I'm going to start, I'll start doing phone sex, but they don't realize like you need pictures.
Right.
You need to be willing to show some of your body. Like they might have said, "Oh, I'll do phone sex so I don't have to like show my tits on the internet." It's like, I mean, you're going to have to show at least a lot of cleavage. You're going to have to show something.
Yeah.
If you don't want to show your bits and parts, then you're going to probably have to show your face as some kind of character or something.
Right.
It's not, like I said, it's not an easy to just jump into.
Right. No, it's not. And I think you do need to be a person.
Yeah.
I think that one of the mistakes that people make is just having Twitter presences, for example, that are just auto-generated retweets of like, I'm online, I'm not online.
Right,
Like,
those are,
nobody wants to follow that. It's not interesting.
Yeah, I specifically don't, even when people are like, that person's hot, and I go, I'm like, there's no content here.
Right. No, it's just advertising. You have to also have like content that's not advertising, I think.
And you also do the sexting on like Sex Panther, which like I'm actually considering getting on, which might upset my girlfriend because I don't sext her, but also it's like, I don't know why. It just my brain won't function. It like, to me, that would be like work and creativity stuff. And with her, it's like, I like to be passionate.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That feel natural.
Right.
But so
I totally hear that because as like a poly person, I can't do online dating because I'm an online sex worker. And anytime anyone's trying to talk to me, I'm like, but I could be getting paid for this. I can't do this.
Yeah. But so like
lose interest in the conversation.
Yeah, it's like, oh, where's your credit card? It's like I'm really poly is in that as much as I love to receive money from many different credit cards.
That's what happens.
I'm poly financial.
Exactly. It's like I used to be, and now I can't. I just can't. I just don't have energy for you. I like need to give my energy to the people that have money.
So, but like any is there anything? Obviously, like sexting versus phone sex is very different. But are there any strategies or tips that you think you would give someone for sexting that you wouldn't give to a phone sex person?
I think that sending a lot of pictures in sexting is important.
Mm-hmm.
I think that in that case, in the sexting arena, that like the visuals that go along with what you're talking about is important. So, I mean, I guess not everybody needs that, but I think it's really helpful to show like how turned on you are by something or like little snippets of like what you're talking about. So that I think is really good. I think it's important to be like emotive in text. I think texts are much more easy to like misconstrue, which is the same in like every type of relationship that you have.
Yeah.
So you have to learn how to make sure that like the emotion or the intention of what you're saying gets across either through like emojis or just being like really specific about what you mean, which is easier to do when you're talking to somebody.
Yeah. What is your brand? What can they expect? Are you a mommy type? Are you a this? Are you, a humiliating person? Like what's your lane?
I'm kind of a mommy person who does like more sensual dom and that dom stuff, but, nice mommy sensual dom stuff. And I also
nice mommy sensual. Be still my heart.
I'm very like talk heavy. I like to talk about people's ideals and their fantasies. And I like, I don't know, I'm also an academic, so I attract a lot of people who are into the meta conversations about their desires or about their lives or about what they've read.
Right. Yeah. If you've ever wanted to jerk off while talking about an academic article you read recently, like you might be the great person to talk to. I would be
so good for that.
Yeah. Well, Jessie, folks at home, her bonus episode comes out tomorrow on Patreon for all my $5 and up members. You get access to that as well as nearly 200 bonus episodes. And that's at patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. But Jessie, where can people find you, listen to you, sext you?
Yeah, I am on Twitter at sapiotextual. That's textual with a T. I am Jessie Sage on Night Flirt and Sex Panther and OnlyFans. And MiniVids. So all of those places.
Go check her out, everybody. And Jessie, why don't you go ahead and say goodbye to everybody one more time?
Okay, bye.
Look, as you all could hear, my voice does not normally sound this bad. I don't know what it is. I think just a heavy night of drinking. I don't know why every year at AVN I just have to fuck up my voice right before I get to Vegas, but that's just how I live my life apparently. And now it's time for the fan whore appreciation moment. Okay, this is the part of the podcast where I like to give a quick shout out to some of the fan whores who are members of my community on Patreon. All right, I want to give a shout out right now to Race Medic in Canada. Canada, can you hold a spot for me? Because depending on how November turns out, I might be taking a lot of long expired visa length vacations up north. Thanks for being a member. Thanks for supporting the show. Shout out to Adolfo, who is apparently not the professor of medicine and microbiology at Mount Sinai, as Googling you would suggest. But we're happy to have you all the same, dude. What's up? And I want to give a big old thank you to, I guess, someone calling themselves Ugg Rafa. Ugh. You rock, dude. Even if you are using a silly name on Patreon, hey, that's your right to do. It's whatever. I will read. I'm Ron Burgundy. I will read the name that is in that box. And you too can become a member of our fan whore community for as little as $2 per month. $2. Are you kidding me? You can sleep easy at night knowing that Billy's got a roof over his head and Wi-Fi that works for $2. That's crazy. What's even crazier is that you can get nearly 200 bonus episodes at our $5 tier. That's incredible. Wait, I can be in a sexy group chat sharing nudes, gifts, and compliments all day, every day, except Mondays, because that's for memes, with other fan whores at the $10 tier. Yeah, that's what that means, dude. Lady, person, whatever. We have all sorts in there. Head on over to patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. Check out the great benefits of membership and join today. Again, that's Patreon, patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. All right, now it's time to play Cast That Porn, brought to you by hotmovies.com.
Hotmovies.com.
Super hot.
Super movies.
Hotmovies.com is a pay-per-minute porn site, which makes it both an ethical and affordable way to hashtag pay for some of your porn. And here to play Cast That Porn with us this week is a friend of the pod, David Piccolomini.
Hello. Hi. Friend of the pod, not a legally distinct term, but...
Fellow stand-up comedian and podcaster. He does his own show, Tinder Tales. I've been on. He's been on this show. We're happy to have him back.
Yeah, we pod swap.
Yeah. Well, oh my gosh, that sounds so vile. Well, what movie are we recasting today?
We're doing Clothed Female, Nude Male, Volume 6, CFNM.
Volume 6 from director William Higgins. If you're a
big Higgins fan.
big Higgins nut.
I got a big Higgins nut for him.
Oh god. Well, CFNM is a porn category I don't know if everyone talks about, but it's a favorite of mine. It stands for Clothed Female, Nude Male.
Yes. So in case you want to like watch someone have sex but don't want all those gross woman parts getting involved.
That was yours. Okay.
We're drinking whiskey at 2 p.m. Because that's what happens when you're a success.
Or when you've had a day like yourself.
Oh my God, we don't even have to. Oh, someone stole my phone today, and then
they recast themselves as you.
Yeah, they put a lot of porn into a lot of people's inboxes, and you ever think about, as a dude with my dick pics, I'm not very protective of them. Honestly, if you want one, hit me up on Twitter. Actually, the last time I said that, someone did, and we had a very fun sexting relationship for a while.
Do you remember who?
No, she lived in Utah.
I got no idea.
No, yeah.
If you had said like Chicago, I would have some guesses. I'm not
gonna name names for this. But yeah, she hit me up, and then like was just like, he said, hit me up. Yeah. I was like, fair.
All right, nude male, here you go.
And I have no problem sending them. I don't send unsolicited.
Attaboy. Well, in this volume 6, William Higgins brings you the 6th volume of CFNM. These beautiful Czech girls. Always check.
Always check.
Always check. Always uncomfortable.
Always check if they're Czech.
The Czech ones make me uncomfortable because sometimes they don't have any sort of like disclaimer in the beginning to say like, hey, everyone here is like of age and doing it consensually.
Woo!
So I'm like,
let's pick a different one.
Czech girls get to keep their clothes on. As for the males, they're here to be dominated, humiliated, and stripped for their pleasure. If you're a fan of femdom and CFNM themes, lower your drawers and bend over. I think there was a translation issue where they say lower your drawers because we don't say that.
I'll lower my drawer and bend over. These are keeping their clothes on, but you're not.
Well, we're gonna do the hot clip.
Hotclip.com.
Hot movies, hot clip. This clip is styled more than just a massage.
Oh man.
And it's a guy, a hairy fella. He looks like a hitman from like.
Yeah, no, honestly, I almost want to just recast him as David Hasselhoff right now, just for the moment.
it would work.
Yeah, it's almost a little too on the nose.
Well, Hasselhoff would have like multiple women massaging him in a session.
He probably has.
But this is the type of thing where like it's the massage table, but his dick goes through a hole, so like they can get underneath and they can jerk and suck it from underneath.
Oh man, wow.
Oh well,
We just skipped right to penetration of the butt.
I see, because like normally I can. That almost looks like a very long slit.
Oh my god, he does. His
Looks like he's
taint
got a
looks like a pussy. That's something I've had to yell before.
Well, I saw, because I'll periodically pop around
Yeah.
in the video.
I mean, she's periodically popping in.
Well, somehow we went straight to the prostate. I was like, well, that's usually towards the end of a massage.
Yeah.
She's not this early. Oh my
He
god,
is so hairy.
so hairy.
I would cast him as a much less hairy. This is the check coming.
You
cleared.
really want to spend extra on hair and makeup to cast a non-hairy guy?
I just this is a lot to
You
watch.
would reimagine as he's not hairy. You know what's funny? It's like he's hairy, but like his hole is fairly hairless.
Yeah, well, that's on purpose. You get a lot of bleaching and waxing done.
Yeah, I can see exactly where the wax happened. Like inner thigh, taint. Ooh, she's got the thing. The little...
Oh, the scratcher thing.
the head massage scratcher
Yeah.
thing. I love those.
On the back. It looks like his whole body's a head with how much hair is on it.
Okay, so are we going with Hasselhoff, or did you have someone else in mind?
Honestly, he face-wise, he looks a little bit like me. That's weird. But actually, so this part is not the part I was planning on, but this still works. I wanted to cast the man as Louis C.K., just so he would learn about the appropriate times it's okay to be nude and jerk off in front of someone.
We can switch to this scene, which might be a little bit more... It's
Yeah,
a little bit
let's
more
switch.
femdom-y.
Then just fingers and buttholes.
Yeah, because
Which-
we were already up to 2 fingers, and we were watching for like 30 seconds.
2 fingers in 30 seconds is something I would pay for, but not watch.
Well, in this one, there's a second fella who so we're in like a barracks, I guess. There's a gentleman like strapped up to a
These
standing.
dudes are jacked, by the way.
Yeah, it's like this is not believable because like they could take these ladies.
Yeah, like the way he's being, it's like Velcro straps. This is, and a lot of nipple play going on.
Well, a gentleman.
I don't know if I want to recast this. I think they're doing fine.
Yeah. No, oh man, I would love to watch Louis C.K. kind of get beat up a bit by some women.
Yeah, I'm into it. I'm very into it.
Because he just announced new tour dates. So
You're just jealous because your tour got canceled.
fuck you! You know exactly where to hurt me.
Much like those women do to that guy.
Well,
Yeah, some women. I don't want to make any specific women do it because I want it to be a choice. Whoever wants to volunteer. Yeah, he's doing some real
He's in pain.
emo haircut look though.
no one can hurt me as much as my father.
As much as how I'm feeling right now.
Oh, tweak the nipples harder like mom did.
Billy, we're learning a lot.
The 2 gals now have floggers out. Who would be beating up Louis C.K.?
Who would be beating? Like, I don't want to give it to other female comics because I mean
They've been through enough.
They've been through enough. Absolutely. It's weird because it's like you want to do someone you'd like seeing beat someone up. I don't know, maybe like Michelle Rodriguez, because I don't think she'd be super into it, but I think she'd be super into beating up a dude.
Yeah, she'd be good at it.
Yeah, is she bi or gay?
She's bi.
She's bi,
to my
okay.
knowledge.
Yeah.
At least in my fantasies, I don't have
By
any
the
knowledge.
way, it's really funny to watch Fast and Furious 7 because Michelle Rodriguez and Vin Diesel, both who are, well, Michelle is out, but Vin is not, and they have zero chemistry together.
You think Vin Diesel's gay?
Yeah. Well, I probably buy, but there's no way it can come out.
Guess I can
Whoa,
see it.
holy shit. With the turd.
Yeah, so he is fully naked. He's got clothespins all over his junk and nipples.
Yeah, I want to see this happen to Louis C.K. a lot. But yeah, like a Michelle Rodriguez, like
Who else?
maybe a Ronda Rousey type, get him in like a weird submission chokehold thing going on.
Could be. Well, I would hate for him to be too into it.
That's I mean, I
Because
think
like the most painful thing for Louis C.K. in the scene is right now he's not jerking off in front of women.
it'd be really hard. There are a lot of clothespins on his dick.
Now the gentleman. So again, we're in like a faux barracks, and there's a bunk bed, and standing next to the bunk bed, but strapped to the bunk bed is another
dude.
guy who's like half naked.
Let's make it Nick DiPaolo.
Nick DiPaolo. Yeah, I was gonna say like honestly, any male comic 45 to 60 who's a little bit of an edgelord.
Yeah, I mean, Norton would probably enjoy it. Jim Norton.
I thought him, Burr.
Burr would be funny to hear him narrate. What are you doing to him?
Louis, you're such a queer.
This is brutal.
Oh my God! It wasn't even that bad what he did. I don't understand why he's got to get beat up over this. Watch my show F is for Family on Netflix.
It's a good show.
Yeah, my name's Bill Burr. I'm in The Mandalorian.
Oh, it's tied up too.
Yeah, no, it's tied up. It's closed pinned.
It's
just
an uncut gem, if you will.
Sometimes people say, what should the punishment be for like gray area violations that really aren't insanely criminal? And I think this is a good one.
This is a pretty solid one. Yeah. By the way, I like that this is both Uncut Gems and Little Women.
All right. Well, Louis C.K. in this, we can reach out to his people and see what hot movies can arrange. CFNM Volume 6. By the way, the the cover image is so wholesome.
Yeah, it's a real Seventh Heaven look.
Yeah, it's very angelic. So, I guess I recommend.
Seventh Heaven, his dick is gonna get clothespins all over it and the balls. Seventh. I'm done.
No, you can keep going. It's your time.
It is my time. My time to shine.
Well, if you
They'll
want,
put fingers in buttholes. That's when you know you're in Seventh Heaven.
Oh, that was the theme song. I forgot. Well, Dave, thanks
for making it up.
Yeah, I thought.
Oh, I wish I was that talented.
Well, folks, if you want to check out CFNM Volume 6 on hotmovies.com, might I recommend sign up for the free trial. It's a 20-minute free trial that turns into 40 minutes when you use promo code MANWHORE at hotmovies.com. In fact, they'll give you 20 free minutes on top of any package you sign up for.
That's 8 to 10 jerk-offs, guys.
Yeah, depending on how long you edge yourself or not.
No, imagine myself before, and then I'm using this for the explosives.
Oh, gosh. And David, where can they go find you, hear you?
Piccolomini on Twitter and Instagram, PICCOLOMEANY, both Twitter and Instagram, and TinderTalesPod.com, Tinder Tales Podcast on all of Spotify, everywhere you can find it, iTunes. Those are the two main things.
Fantastic. And if they want to see your dick?
Yeah, just ask.
DM,
honestly,
just ask.
Like, I really, like, that's what's fucked up is, like, but it is nice. Like, people have messaged me and they're like, that's not you. Also, you wouldn't be up at 8 a.m. They started sharing it at 8 a.m. It's so weird.
Do you want to tell them what happened?
I think I kind of mentioned
you
it.
did?
Basically, yeah, my phone got stolen last night, and at 8 a.m., they started sending my dick to everyone and anyone that would look at it. They posted on my Instagram, on my Facebook stories, and yeah, it's just, it's very weird because I'm very sexually open, but also not like this. It's nice that people know the distinction. That is what's really nice.
Yeah, it's just like, dude, I mean, you could just ask to see it.
I mean, well, no, but that's the problem is totally they could just ask.
Sure.
But I would never just force people to see my dick. I have zero interest in that. That's not hot to me.
Yeah. And if you haven't heard David's episode of my show, go on back, find that one. We talked about his big old schlong.
Yeah, we do. Big dick privilege. Yeah.
Yeah, big dick privilege. I think that's the episode title. Hotmovies.com, promo code MANWHORE. David, why don't you say goodbye to everybody?
Goodbye, everybody.
And now for Cora Harrington. Oh, right. Cora Harrington. Cora Harrington is a lingerie expert. She's an expert on intimate apparel. I've been following her for quite a little bit, and I've been wanting to get her on the show for a while, and I'm so glad we got to finally make this work. I learned so much, like, I learned about the demand for a 28 band, whatever that means. I learned what a catsuit technically is and how that's different from a full body stocking. Look, I don't care if you wear lingerie or not. I don't care if you're a guy, a gal, or anything in between. If you've been curious about lingerie, if you want to take some notes, if you want to impress someone who does wear lingerie, this is the episode to listen to. So let's go get intimate on apparel with Cora Harrington.
So before this, my husband and I lived in Orange County. And
Orange County, New York, or
No,
Cali?
Cali. And before that, we lived in Seattle.
Ah.
And then I grew up in Georgia.
Wow. So you've been all
Yeah.
over the place. All right. I guess part of me wants to think like, is there regional differences with lingerie or not?
Well, there actually are a few. It's interesting. For example, in Orange County, which of course is very close to LA, you see smaller bra sizes, which I thought was interesting. Like, that was the first time I saw 28 band sizes in stores, because the population is a little bit smaller overall, at least in LA, I guess. In Seattle, you would see like a lot of warm and fleecy things. A lot of independent designers were popular in Seattle lingerie boutiques. Small designers, which kind of vibes with that city, which is very into like local and indie and all that sort of thing. In Atlanta, I think like the sizes skew a little larger in terms of like cup sizes and band sizes in Atlanta, which kind of vibes with like the South and like the people. Cause there are also regional differences, I feel like, in how, people like just tend to be shaped, or like trends maybe in like sizes and that sort of thing, which you don't really talk about.
There's some potato heavier parts of the country.
Right. Like there are, and there, just like there are regional differences in taste, there are also kind of like regional differences in sizes, or in the size people prefer to wear, which isn't something you can always pull apart. And so you'll see, and then also because Atlanta has, a larger African American population, you're also more likely to see like nudes for darker skin tones. And then up here, you'll see, like a lot of luxury type brands in the boutiques up here, more expensive brands, I feel like, in boutiques up here. So I mean, that's speaking very generally, because there's also like expensive stuff in LA, like Jeanette bras. I'm just kind of rambling now.
No, I asked a question facetiously, and there was an actual answer to it, and I love that.
But like one of the most famous boutiques in America, if not the world, they're very popular, is Jeanette Bras, which is in LA, who is run by Jeanette, who was Rodriguez in Aliens. Which is very cool. But she specializes only in like D cup and up bras, and she carries like a really beautiful and wide range, like focused on that size range. And you're also part of why you're more likely to see kind of you're more likely to see smaller bands and larger cup sizes in LA. Also because there's more of like a breast augmentation, plastic surgery culture there.
Right.
So there's just like lots of little things where, like, depending on where you are in the country, people lean more towards one or another thing. And like I said, it's speaking very, very generally. Like, I'm not saying everybody in the South is big boobed or like.
Right, but it does seem like the market will react to what
Yeah.
that local market has,
Yes.
which is interesting, because like one of the calls for like including, say, like, bigger sizes for things is like, yeah, but there's people nationwide who want the things, but it doesn't seem like I don't know. When I see the way things are advertised, unless they're specifically making a push as that company, it still seems to be the stereotypical kind of models if it's like nationwide advertising.
Yeah.
But you're saying if I went to Seattle, if I went to Georgia, like I'd see actually the different types of lingerie.
Right. You would see
offered.
some differences there. And it's very like, there's a lot of stuff that's kind of taboo to talk about in terms of sizing and stuff, which is
this is the place to talk about it.
Well,
I was canceled long ago. Let's go. We can get into it.
I mean, I don't want to, I honestly, I don't feel like dealing with a lot of backlash at the moment, but I will say that a lot of what people think about in terms of what sells or what people want to buy, or even like the most popular sizes in terms of what sells, do not vibe with what people want them to be. And that can be a very difficult conversation to have.
As in, like, the larger stuff's not selling the way people maybe are calling for them to be offered?
So, like, one example would be, like, the 28 bands thing I just mentioned. I
do not know what a 28 band is.
okay.
Like, look
So
at
it's
how
a bra-
I'm dressed. I know as much about lingerie as by looking at me, you would think I would know about lingerie.
So the band size of a bra, right? That's the band that
That's
wraps
the
around
number
the body.
part.
That's the number.
Okay.
A lot of, for most people and most brands, those numbers are going to start in the 30s, like 32, 34, 36, moving on into the 40s, sometimes the 50s. Okay. You don't see, for example, many 26 band bras. I mean, it's like that's a very petite person who has a rib cage that's about 26 inches around.
Okay.
But there was a huge push online years ago in various bra forums and bra fit forums and communities like on Reddit that was like, we need more 28 band bras. It's such an underserved market. It's a shame bra companies aren't making 28 bands. So bra companies were like, all right. We see people are talking about it, being very vocal. We're going to make 28 bands. They did not sell. There are some brands that still have those same 28 bands they've been trying to get rid of for years. So just because and the thing about social media and the internet is that people can sound, I I want to say like they're bigger than they are. Like the population.
It sounds like there's a bigger push for something than maybe there is.
Right. Like the people who are most passionate and most vocal are going to be the ones on social media. And I think it's very easy to forget, especially if you are on social media all the time, as we are, that most people are not. And that most people don't really care about what's on social media or what's happening.
That's how I feel about, like, say, movies and casting stuff where, although, like, diversity in movies is important, when people are shouting, we want this type of thing in this movie, I'll be like, cool, then they make it and then you didn't buy a ticket. Like, if you're going to call for it, that's great and awesome. You also need to go pay the ticket so that they know to keep making it. Tangerine, by every measurement, should have been a blockbuster, an indie blockbuster, based on how much people were demanding films led by trans women. And then you had one that's led by two, Shawn and iPhone. It should have been the most profitable movie ever made. And yet, like, it made a few $1,000s.
I didn't hear of it.
Exactly. It was an indie flick, but like it was all the things you want. There's two trans women of color leading a thing. They're both like, they're also both sex workers. There's it's an interesting movie. It's kind of a music video of a movie, to be honest. But like, it's exactly what was being called for on the internet, and then the internet did not show up in real life for it. So it's like, if you want something, you have to also follow through. You can't just shout for it.
This is what I tell my followers all the time and people who read my site all the time. I'm like, if you are going to vocally demand the thing, that's great. Like, being able to interact with brands directly is great. Like, I don't think we should go back to the old days of like, you can't talk to a brand, you can't communicate with them. They're just doing a thing.
Because it's clearly caused change. Like, brands have changed decisions based off of the
yes. And well, that's so kind of just doing a brief segue here.
Sure.
Obviously, I can talk about this for a very long time.
I would love you
so
to.
so let me know.
That's why that's why Cora Harrington is here from the Lingerie Addict. Say hello to people before you get on your big old rant.
What was I about to say?
If you're gonna call for something.
Right.
Online,
I remember
and interacting with brands is awesome.
Okay, but so one thing, because the internet has a very short memory, people aren't actually aware of how much has changed since social media kind of came to the forefront and became a way to talk to brands. I mean, when I started my site, which was 12 years ago this coming April.
Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been doing this a long time. It's very funny when people come up to me and they're like, "Oh, I just heard of you. You just started." And I'm like, "No. I've been around probably since you were a child." So like when I started, a lot of brands would debut, new brands would debut, and their size range was like 32 to 36 B to D. Like, that was a normal size range when I started my site. 32 to 36 A to D, 32 to 36, or like 32 to 38 A to D, just like very small, very narrow size ranges, which is still a lot of sizes numerically. And I can talk about that later. Like, people have a difficult time conceptualizing how many sizes go into a bra size range, because most people are used to thinking in 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, that sort of thing. So you can have...
Which I have no idea what I know that those are size numbers.
Yeah, those are like dress sizes.
But like, never will I understand what they look like.
I mean, they're arbitrary.
Because ours, like with the guys, I know what a 36 or 38 waist means,
Yeah.
and I can kind of look at a guy and get an idea.
Yeah, they're
Someone
totally
tells me she's
arbitrary
size 6.
sizes.
I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything. It's... Like, that's why people get really hung up on being a true size, whatever. I'm like, it doesn't matter. There's no standardization.
Is the reason they won't switch to like the similar with the guy stuff is because like you don't want to tell a woman that like she's 38 or around
that's not it. It has more to do with there being more variability in women's bodies and their proportions and dimensions than in men's bodies. So for men, you can more accurately predict what their hip measurement is going to be based on their waist measurement, because men are shaped like tubes. Whereas with women, it's very difficult to predict that relationship. Somebody could have a 30-inch waist and a 38-inch hip, a 40-inch hip, a 44-inch hip.
Same with weight, like 150 pounds on a woman, like that looks so different on, like, you give me 10 women who weigh 150 pounds, they all could look very different. And then I've stopped even trying to think about what that is. Whereas I look at a guy, I can kind of guess his weight.
So with women, it's a lot more variable. You can't really say, well, if a woman has a 30-inch waist, this is going to be her hip. Whereas with a man, you can be like, oh, he has a 36-inch waist. We can predict his hip is going to be kind of in this range. And also with women, you can't be sure how the weight is distributed. And I'm speaking very generally, like men and women. It's people who have gone kind of like through like female puberty, essentially, which widens your hips and the fat deposit shift. I'm not sure of another way to express that other than men and women in terms of how clothing is categorized. Basically, it doesn't mean that like only women are wearing these clothes, but in terms of how they're split.
I think it was a fair way to share.
Yeah, like in
it.
terms of how they're divided in stores, like that's the category. So that's what I'm referring to.
We were talking about interacting with brands directly and causing
sorry.
demand for
Yes.
stuff. No, that's okay.
I got another tangent. Okay.
I'm here to bring it back in.
All right. So I think it's really great that we can talk to brands directly. I mean, before, like in the old industry, brands would send things to boutiques or to department stores, and your point of contact with the brand was through the mediation of that department store or of that boutique. So now you can talk to them directly. But as you said, the flip side of that is if you're going to demand the thing, you have to buy the thing. And that's something I tell my readers all the time. I'm like, I think it's great that you're asking for these things. There's nothing wrong with being angry, with being upset, with demanding more. That's all great. But when it arrives, you have to buy it. And you have to buy it at full price is the other thing I think people don't realize. Full price sales count much more than sale price sales. If something is only bought when it's on sale, when it's 50% off, brands are going to be like, oh, well, we didn't really make money.
This isn't a profitable item to make. Why am I going to waste my time?
And then when you compare that to the things that do sell, like they're just going to be like, well, we should double down more on this. And that's one of the things that's hidden. Sorry, my microphone is drifting around. That's one of the things that's hidden, I think, about fashion in general and therefore intimate apparel is that what actually sells versus what people think sells is very opaque. And there's quite a large gap between what people on Instagram, for example, like a lot of influencers will say sells or what they think sells versus when you actually look at a brand's numbers and you can see what moved for them. And that is a very difficult conversation to have publicly. Most brands have absolutely no desire to engage in that conversation because nobody wants to get like hammered online. And even like just kind of saying it very vaguely makes a lot of people upset because I think it's such a departure from what a lot of fashion media is saying, from what a lot of people feel is right. And there are also reasons for that I probably shouldn't get into. But essentially, as we said, if you're going to ask a brand for a thing, whether that's more nude tones, which is something that I've been a strong advocate for, whether that's larger band sizes, which I also believe we need larger cup sizes, you have to follow through. Yeah. And you have to get it. Otherwise, all the Instagram comments in the world do not matter. Like when they look at their balance sheets, they're not looking at Instagram comments. They're looking at dollars.
Yeah, these Instagram. We can't pay bills with likes yet.
Right.
Yet.
And
one day, though.
True, right? For
one
us,
day,
right?
I'm going to trade those retweets in for something.
Yeah, like, and you can't. Nobody. I don't want to say nobody cares, but
it only matters so far.
Yeah.
If at the end of the day it doesn't, we still live in a capitalist society. If it doesn't lead to a dollar, it's not going to change a thing.
Businesses are here to make a profit, which, I mean, there are certainly critiques to be made about that, but that's also like the thing that's true. Businesses are not created to lose money.
Right. So. CEOs, they're actually bound by law to do what's best for the country, not what's best for like the environment or for the country or for this group of people or whatever. Your whole business is very interesting to me because like I have not seen anyone who just focuses just on lingerie. I see a lot of voices in the space, a lot of people on Twitter who talk about lingerie sometimes, but never like someone who's like, I'm a lingerie addict. This is what we do. Yeah. And you've been doing it for so long.
Right.
What made you so interested in lingerie?
It was kind of an accident. I tell people like I tripped and fell into my business. I was just like hanging out. I had a guy I was dating and I was like, oh, I want to buy some lingerie for him. Like it's not a terribly like empowering story. I don't know. But I was searching for things on the internet and I couldn't find any information. I couldn't find reviews. I couldn't find articles talking about what was the best thing to buy. There was no one telling me which brands existed or there was nothing out there. I was searching. There was another blog. There were a few other blogs. One was called the Lingerie Post. They mostly published press releases. There was another called Frou Frou Fashionista, which was the blog for the store Fair Frou Frou, which is no longer in business. But they mostly published like lookbooks and editorials. There were other lingerie blogs. They were mostly kind of like image focused.
Okay.
In terms of like just sharing pictures, which is a thing that happens with regarding lingerie. And there was one other blog that was about information called Knicker's blog. But it wasn't kind of very frequently updated, and they gave like good general information. But it didn't really kind of fit with what I wanted to see. Mm-hmm. So there's maybe 5 lingerie blogs at most at the time.
Not nearly enough.
Right. And there's probably still like 5 now, honestly. It's not a very popular niche. But I just started writing about things I wished I could buy.
Yeah.
The very first blog post I ever wrote was about a pair of stockings from this drummer brand called Falke. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I don't know. You would think I know how to pronounce all these brands, and I don't. But it was a pair.
There's a lot of French in your industry. So,
well,
I mean, I
a lot of
you.
names that I never actually hear aloud. I only read them. And so like I'm never quite, unless I actually interact with the brand. I don't know how
I mean,
to
so
pronounce
many of us thought it was Kiev for so long
Right,
until
so
we
it's
found
like-
out. We watched one, House Judiciary thing, and we're like, "Oh, it's Kiev.
Yeah.
It's been Kiev this whole time."
Right. Or like, Hermes or whatever. I'm pronouncing that right instead of Hermes. So I started just writing about things I wish that I could buy and things that I thought were cool. And the first name of my blog was actually Stockings Addict, where I only wrote about hosiery. And then a little bit in, I was like, I don't just want to write about hosiery forever. So I started writing about other things. And then I went through a couple of blog names that weren't good.
Please share.
Well, one of them, so here's how bad, like one of them was called like Stockings and Lingerie blog,
Okay.
which is not a good
Good
name.
SEO, but not fun. All
Right. Like I shared it with a friend and they were like, that's not a brand.
Yeah.
So, and then I said, well, I was Stockings Addict, so I can just be like the Lingerie Addict.
Yeah.
And it stuck. And I think it's worked really well. So, but like that was another thing where I wasn't thinking ahead to 10 years from now, I'll have a thing. It was like a Blogspot blog back in the days of Google Reader. and
Early
all of that.
blogs.
Yeah.
What a world.
And so I miss Google Reader so much.
Yeah. What was Google Reader for those?
Oh, right.
Well,
right. Okay.
there do exist listeners here who are like maybe 22. And
Right.
You have to explain Google Reader and
So-
9/11 to them. It's like,
Google Reader was essentially like a RSS feed, or your own kind of self-selected RSS feed where you could choose to follow blogs and kind of get notified when they had new posts or scroll through their new
like
posts.
a podcast app of sorts, but for like blogs.
Yeah,
You're
and I
gonna-
really
yeah.
miss it because it was so much easier to stay on top of what you wanted to read.
Now you got to remember to type in lingerieaddict.com and go.
Yeah,
and
you could find the thing, and it's not like today where it's just all algorithms telling you what you want to read.
I'm a big fan of on
So-
Twitter. I'm always latest first.
Yeah.
Do not give me your home. Don't trick me thinking I like your home algorithm because you called it home.
Right.
You're making me think of mom. But no.
It's
I want
not.
latest first. Okay, that's what your app was for.
I mean, they're like recommending people I don't follow. I'm just like, but recently Twitter was like, we think you might like the rap category or something, like rap and hip hop. And I was like, what about my feed? Like, it's fine as a category. I mean,
Right.
it's not a judgment about that.
But why did you think
Right.
that?
Like, what about my feed?
Were you scanning my tweets or my pictures?
Right. Told you that that's why I'm here. So early days of Google Reader, I just started writing about stuff I was buying. And then I started doing reviews. They were terrible reviews. They were not good at all.
What makes a good lingerie review?
Well, I think it's very difficult to write a good review if you're not informed about the product. And
Okay.
I didn't know anything. And then I wanted to know more, but it takes a while to build a knowledge base. It takes a while to become an expert in the field, which is why I feel like I can call myself an expert now. One of my friends was like, definitely, like, you wrote a book about the topic.
That makes you an expert.
You're an expert. But it takes a while to build that knowledge base. And I didn't have it then. And so the stuff I wrote was just not good, which is fine. But the thing is, there wasn't anyone else doing that. And so I started attracting just a very organic readership from people who were also like me, looking for product reviews, looking for interesting things to buy. And so it grew very small, not very small. I want to say like very smallly. That's not the word.
It grew slowly.
Slowly.
There we
Yes,
go.
thank you. I was like, smallly?
I
No.
got
It grew slowly.
You
and
fall, I'll catch it.
Yeah.
Okay.
very slowly and organically, just from people recommending it to their friends.
Yeah.
Because this was also before social media took off as a branding and promotion tool.
Yeah, sometimes, hey, college kids, sometimes we just told people to go check out. We didn't have to snap it to them or whatever you do.
And that was how it grew. It wasn't because I got like some feature in the Times or had like some big New York City connection or something to tell people. People just told their friends.
Organic hustle.
And then it just kind of, it didn't become a thing overnight, but like it just kind of built momentum gradually and gradually and gradually and gradually. And then it was a thing.
What were you most shocked that you didn't know?
About intimate apparel?
Yeah, because like talking about sex and dating for so long, I am disgusted now by how much I didn't know in the first couple years of the show.
Right, like I really thought I knew stuff. I didn't know anything.
Oh yeah, I was saying that word still then. Oh boy,
yeah, I knew. Yeah, I was still talking about like sexy and whatever. Like I don't do that now. One of the most interesting facts I've ever learned about intimate apparel is that all underwear used to be crotchless. Right. And so like today we think of crotchless underwear as like, ooh, sexy times, bedroom times. But if you were a woman a person dressing as a woman in the 19th century, for example, or in the 18th century, and you were wearing all these skirts, all these petticoats, all these hoops and whatnot and panniers under your dress, those things were very heavy. Like
Right.
It was a lot of layers. They were very heavy. You couldn't like pull them all up to go to the bathroom. And so your drawers, if you wore them, because a lot of people also didn't wear drawers like the 18th century, or at least women didn't. Your drawers, if you were wearing them, were basically totally open in the center so that you didn't have to undress, which was a long and tedious process to use the bathroom. And it was actually the case that closed crotch knickers were seen as an indication of being a sex worker, because what was implied was you had to undress fully to do anything.
Wow. So when did we switch to the closed crotch knickers? Also, when did we stop saying knickers?
Well, I still say knickers because
I've never been comfortable saying knickers.
Well, I say knickers because I don't necessarily like the word panties.
Okay.
And it probably works better writing than saying it aloud. I just don't like the word panties.
Sure. What's your beef with the word panties? What's your beef with the word panties?
I just, so like when I was a kid, my underwear was called panties. And so I think my association is still like with childhood.
Sure.
And so I just use the British knickers.
Okay.
Because it's not a word that I just particularly like.
So when did we cross over? It seems like you, in your gathering knowledge, wasn't just like about the products itself, but also the history of it.
About in terms of what I do?
Yeah, it was. For example, you're bringing up like, oh, we used to not have them. Like,
Yeah.
did you learn like fun history underwear topics?
Yeah, like there's a lot of it. It's so, the thing about fashion is that we kind of assume that people in the past had the same access to things as us today, or the same attitudes about clothing as us. And so what's most interesting to me through the lens of intimate apparel is seeing how perceptions have changed over time. And I think the kind of the closed crotch, open crotch knickers is one of my favorite examples of that, because it's exactly the opposite today. Where like closed crotch knickers are considered more appropriate, and just like, so people are listening, like those are just like the regular, like, if there's a gusset in it, like it's closed crotch.
Right.
But open crotch knickers are seen as like the sexy option. And so I like things like that because it shows how we define and think of clothing is not like some objective reality. It's what society and culture tells us is appropriate. And I feel like that is the most fascinating thing about fashion to me, and about intimate apparel to me, is what it says about the world we live in.
Mm-hmm. Where do you think where intimate apparel is now? What do you think it says about the world we're in?
This particular moment in intimate apparel is basically built around comfort, built around the idea of people wearing what they want to see themselves in, and not necessarily dressing with a view to other people looking at what they're wearing. The trends today are kind of an offshoot of the athleisure movement, which is also all about comfort. Mm-hmm. And so we're seeing similar materials pop up in intimate apparel. We're seeing those softer silhouettes. We're seeing stretchier garments. But we're also seeing the drive to ever lower prices appear in our underwear. Things are not as well made. They're not as well finished. We see like the materials aren't as good as we saw in previous decades. And so like if somebody 100 years from now were to look at the underwear we're wearing today and say compare it to the 80s, one of the things they would notice is a marked decline in quality. And what that would say about where we are right now is that people were less concerned with quality and more concerned with like volume or quantity. Because there's so much more underwear floating out there, but it's not made as nicely. And so like that sort of thing, like, and those aren't things people think about when you're buying your underwear. You're not thinking about, well, what does this say about the 21st century?
When aliens come by, what are they going to think about my panties or my knickers?
But there's a whole story there that, and I mean, and part of living in society and living in a culture is that you don't notice it. Actually, like it's just kind of the water that you swim in. Yeah. But there's a lot that's built into there. And so, I mean, I love the shopping guides and the reviews we do. And I think those are very important on a practical level. But in terms of kind of what keeps me interested personally in the topic, it's that history, culture, society question.
Yeah. Is there a particular culture where you think like they had it right? Like that's the best intimate apparel era?
Probably this era is the best in terms of access and in terms of size ranges and product availability.
So you're okay with you think the lesser quality is fine because more people now have access to lingerie?
I don't think lesser quality is fine. I think it's terrible because among other things, it doesn't teach people how to recognize quality. And that creates its own problems because then people don't know why things are priced differently.
My friend, we were just talking about before you got here how you might go into some sex shop and buy something that's like in some fucking bag and put that on, and
that's very popular now.
But she said she's like thought it was shit. She was like, I don't. Her boyfriend at the time was like, oh, you look really hot. She was like, I think you're wrong. But then if you went and like bought like a $500, I don't know how much things cost.
You're like, here's a number.
500 sounds like an expensive amount to spend on underwear. Personally, as someone who just doesn't wear underwear, I'm just like 500 sounds excessive. But yeah, a multiple $100 piece of lingerie, that's. I don't know. It just seems like there's that wide disparity.
You should have different expectations, and for something that's $50 or $25 versus something that's $500. And so one of the things that I try to do on my site is explain to people what those expectations should be. Like what you should expect as far as hems, as far as seams, as far as quality of lace, quality of silk, so that you can, even if you can't buy this thing right now, you know what you're looking at. So I'm not really okay with how terrible the quality of our underwear is now for a lot of reasons. It contributes to waste. It means people actually don't understand the value of their clothing. Because when things are cheap, capitalist society, you think they're worthless and you think the work that went into them is worthless. And people will say that they don't think that, but you could tell from the way they talk about like clothing, they think it's worthless.
They have their place. I feel like that would be like, okay, get this cheap stuff, but that's good for when you want to have a night where he's literally going to rip it off you. That's a good time.
I mean, people also under capitalism, all our wages are depressed. So people afford what they can afford. I don't want to give like a judgment to that. Cause if you only have so much of a budget, like you buy what you can get, and that's just reality. Everybody can't afford like a $75 bra. So my issue is more that we don't know what quality looks like anymore. It's also that everybody's wages are depressed, which is really sucky. Yeah. And darn it, where were we going with this? I keep just running off on tangents. Oh, right. People's options, though, are more expansive than they've ever been before, which is why I would recommend this particular era. There's never been more sizes. There's never been more styles. There's never been more options. There's never been easier access to those options. And so that's what I think is exciting about this era in underwear. There's all this newness and all this accessibility that didn't exist 15 years ago.
It also seems like lingerie is spoken about way more.
Yes,
now.
I've noticed that in the last few years, which is exciting
like
for me.
Because then more people will be like, now I can go read this
Yes.
in my office and it shouldn't be as taboo.
Well, and also it means that more people reach out to me for information about lingerie. Because before people would be like, what can you talk about? It's like, well, there is a lot actually to talk about for this topic. And I wish that I've been called like a very small niche blogger, which isn't actually how I think of myself.
I don't think of it either.
Because if everybody wears underwear, and mostly everybody does, like in the West, how can it be a small niche? Like, we don't call handbags a small niche, or like jewelry a small niche. Why is underwear considered to be a small niche? And I have thoughts about that are related to gender. And
please you feel free to share those thoughts. The thing that stuck out to me in that it being less taboo is that like my girlfriend will have her like her lady friends over, and they will just get into wear a bunch of different lingerie and just change into all different lingerie and take sexy pics with each other. Not to hook up with each other, not because they need to send it to a thing. They just like, girls' night, we're just going to drink some wine, wear lingerie, and take pictures.
I think that's so cool.
Guys, we do not do that. Guarantee that there's no guys' night out where like we're just like, yo, let's like try on these.
You
man
should have
thongs.
underwear parties. Everybody should have underwear parties. I think that'd be a great idea. But yeah, I mean, that's another part of the like wearing it for yourself like aspect, where people, like women or femme identified people feel comfortable like getting together and doing that. Why lingerie is undervalued in society? Because it's primarily worn by women. And I think we undervalue things that are primarily done or worn by women because it's primarily women making the garments. We undervalue sewing. We see it as women's work.
But it's also not a woman at the top of the chain, not understanding, what's going to go in to make it quality and be like, yeah, the broads will wear whatever we put out there because it's some dude at the top of the chain who just doesn't get what his company's making. So
the funny thing about that is that a lot of people think Victoria's Secret's particular business model, which I imagine is kind of what you have in the back of your head with the man at the top.
Anything taking place before 2012, I just picked an arbitrary year.
Okay.
I just imagine if it's a business, there's probably some dude at the top of it.
That's not
unfortunately
always true
not
for intimate
thing.
Apparel.
Yeah.
Which is very funny because I think like the kind of the story of lingerie that people talk about is like men are in charge and that's why lingerie sucks because it's men telling everybody what to wear.
Oh, tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, because most of the people working in lingerie at all levels are women.
Okay.
Like from the corporate level, the CEO level, all the way to like the design to the making, it's mostly women. Like I very rarely interact with a man in this space, which is not what most people expect, is what makes sense because like that's just the industry. At least it makes sense to me. I don't know. But people's idea or conceptualization of what lingerie is, there's like some male figure at the background, like talking down to the women and telling them what to make. And that's not actually how it is.
I just think about that about all industries. I think
that probably makes sense in most industries. But like when I see people talking about that in various like media publications, like it's so clear to me in a lot of ways that most of the people writing about lingerie actually have no idea what they're writing about. And so these myths wind up getting perpetuated because if you write for a prominent fashion magazine, people are going to think what you're saying is true. And so a lot of these myths get perpetuated. The same happens with like other influencers on Instagram, for example. If you have like 100,000 followers, people are going to assume what you're saying is the truth. Right. And that's just how a lot of bad information gets spread. And so when I'm saying something that totally contradicts that, people are like, well, who are you? You must be lying.
Right. Gwyneth Paltrow said.
Right. And I'm like, well, like, this is what I do. Like, I'm not people say I'm an influencer in this space, but what I am is an expert in this space where people do not come to me and to my site like because they think I'm cute. They come to me and my site because I have things to say about the industry that I'm in.
Yeah. But your brand does not seem to be like, look at me in lingerie and now read my words focused. It seems like I'm assuming that might have been a conscious decision to not take that path.
Right. I mean, there are photos of me on the internet, like obviously.
Sure.
But they're not the point of what I do and the purpose of what I do. Right. And it's so funny. I just did my Instagram top 9 and like 8 out of the 9 were like tweets where I've talked about lingerie. And it was so funny because I've said for a while that like my followers aren't really here to see me. Like it's like, they're like, okay, that's nice. That's nice. Like,
right. But they're not showing up to your Instagram. They're showing up to your brand, not to like quietly like jerk off to you. They're there to like genuinely learn and read your words about this topic.
Right. And for me, I chose that for a few reasons. I think, among others, expertise has longevity. It won't actually matter how much older I get. or that I'm not necessarily aligned with like popular aesthetics or ideals of beauty, because that's not why people are coming to me. I remember this was a few years ago. I was just kind of thinking about what direction to go in, and wondering if I was doing the right thing. And I thought about Anna Wintour, who I think was once a model, like way, way back. But now, like, she's the head of Vogue and the head of so many other things, and no one is really talking about how she looks. And like, that was the model that I thought I wanted to go in, where you have a career that lasts far beyond, like your 20s or 30s, or whenever people tend to think that like you fit into this ideal age range for modeling or what have you. I don't know if I'm expressing that quite right.
What you're saying, before all the body starts doing what bodies naturally do as we age.
Well, and yeah, and that's when women are in some ways like made invisible, which is something that's come up a lot in conversations recently. Like, when women reach a certain age, they essentially become invisible to society.
Mm-hmm. Because they no longer offer the sexuality that society wanted them for.
Right. They can no longer, or they are no longer kind of seen as like maybe sexual objects. Like,
and
clearly,
I say, Susan Sarandon, don't worry, I still see you as a sexual object.
I mean, like the thing that I think we also should talk about more as far as that goes is that like you can be a sexual person and be a sexual being like forever.
Yeah.
And we know that. Like, but just kind of knowing how women, like models, no matter what, like I think about like the famous Sports Illustrated models, for example, when I was a child, or the famous Victoria's Secret models when I was a child, looking at Victoria's Secret's catalogs. And most people don't talk about them anymore. They're not really most of them aren't doing modeling work anymore. And so apart from just not having the right build or what have you to be a model, if I wanted to think about, well, what can I do 5 and 10 and 15 years from now, potentially, it's going to be building my expertise. And I think that has been the right decision to go into.
Do you find yourself sometimes when you do stuff that are pictures of you, do you kind of find yourself going like, I don't know if this one's a little too sexual or a little too...
No, I'm very deliberate about which photos I share.
Yeah.
And if I think I'm not going to be comfortable having my image on the internet like that, I don't share it.
Yeah. So you'll align with the photos you want to put out there, like with...
Yeah. And I'm also very
trajectory.
good about like who I work with. Mm-hmm. And how I pose. So I'm very, the way I look in photos is how I want to look in photos, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It is interesting. So talking about lingerie, lingerie is kind of inherently sexual, whether it's for yourself or someone else, I think.
I don't think it's inherently sexual, because most of what people buy, like the bread and butter of the industry is not sexy stuff. The bread and butter of the industry is like beige and black and white t-shirt bras.
Okay, I guess I meant more the when I say lingerie, I think more something that's, I guess, a purposeful, occasional type of thing. Well, not your bread and butter underwear.
Right, but I also think that's one of the things I want to unpack, because people hear lingerie and they think, oh, it's just sexy stuff, which I think also contributes to the delegitimization of the industry, because people think it's not as applicable to their lives. When lingerie includes all the things. It includes pajamas, it includes robes, it includes bras, it includes, your brief style underwear. Like it's all the things. It's
so for you, lingerie and underwear are synonymous.
Well, for the industry, like that's what they are, because otherwise you're getting into like arbitrary ideas of what is sexy, and that's going to vary for everybody.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, because I guess that led to what I was going to ask was about talking about lingerie. Even so, people a lot of people still view lingerie then as sexual, even if you don't think so, or the industry doesn't think so. But do you? So I talk about sex explicitly on the internet, and yours can be interpreted as sexual, even if you're not talking about sex at all. When you're talking about like these Hanes underwear, whatever.
I think anything can be sexual. Like the same could be said of like red lipstick, for example. Like, is it an inherently sexual thing?
I don't find it to be as inherently sexual, because I think of it as having other uses outside of like
there you go.
sex. Fair. I guess, again, like when I think lingerie, I think the more stereotypical look of a lingerie, which seems something you want people to disillusion from. I guess I'm curious if you find people on the internet who interact with you, your brand, whether they're assholes or people who just don't get it, like who kind of almost impose sexuality upon your work.
I imagine some people do, but I think if
like
you
DMs,
look at
comments, stuff like that.
I've gotten some of those, not as much recently. I think it's very clear if you follow me for any length of time that if you are just there to be titillated, you're not gonna really get the thing you want.
Okay.
But my approach to lingerie is that, In the same way, we don't think of high-heeled shoes as purely sexual objects. Like, can they be sexual objects? Like, clearly, yes.
Yeah.
But are they always? Like, would you think that any person wearing high-heeled shoes is wearing them to be sexy? Probably not. The same is true for makeup. Like, can you wear makeup in a sexy and seductive way or in a way that makes you feel sexy? Yes. Is every instance where someone is wearing makeup meant to be sexy? Probably not. And so I think intimate apparel is the same. And I try to push people towards thinking intimate apparel is the same. Not to desexualize it because people can find whatever they want to be sexy. But to show people that there is a lot more to this world than sex and sexuality. And that there's a lot more to consider and to relate it to than sex.
Another thing that apparently exists out there is men's lingerie.
Right.
Something I'm interested in. I found a brand in like the news cycle years ago called Menagerie.
Yes.
I don't know if you've heard that.
Yeah,
A guy named
I have. I
Roman.
actually have a pair of their boxer shorts.
Oh, so that's
Yeah.
what I had. It was it was
Like the lace boxer
floral
shorts.
lace print,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
they're
so
cool.
I had those, but I had the high waisted one, and it was perfect. And now I used to think lingerie was silly. And when I say lingerie right now, I'm talking about the stuff that's definitely more stereotypically sexual. So for a moment, I'm gonna just separate from what you've exposed me to. When I always thought they were silly, they got in the way of the goal. It was like I don't really care. I'm like I'd rather have you naked than in this thing. But then I put on. I got my pair. It's the best like $89 I spent. I put them on. I rolled it up, and I got the lace to be like all flattened down and everything. I was like. I remember running my hands down my thighs and be like, I feel hot. Like, this is dope. Why aren't we all wearing this? Because for me, I was buying it for sex party purposes. So I had like an easy item of clothing I could wear. And then it looks like I've put in effort, even though all I did was put one thing on. And I thought they're great. I've lost them. I lost them at a party.
Oh, you should check. So the guy
This
who
is-
runs the Instagram, sometimes he has samples for sale. I don't know if he's still in
For
production.
Menagerie.
Yeah.
So, well, what happened? So I hit him up. I said, like, hey, left him at a play party. You know, happens to all of us, right? We always you lose underwear here and there. And I was like, do you have these again? He's like, I don't have them. He didn't have them in my size on the site. Everything else on the site in my size. I would not wear with the body that I'm rocking right now. I just don't feel comfortable doing. It's very little, or it was a full body stocking.
I need to go look there again.
Yeah, well, because I think he just stopped producing stuff. Because I don't know if he wasn't selling enough or what. But he's like, I just don't. If I don't have anything else in that size, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll try to see if I have any samples left.
Yeah.
But like, I don't. I'm like, what is out there for men in lingerie? Because women loved seeing me in that. I think in part because they were not used to seeing men in real like lace. They're used to seeing dudes if they're going to be sexy in like some sort of G-string thing or something very teeny weeny. And to see me wearing something high-waisted, something lace, floral, they were like, oh, that's hot. So like, where could guys find more of that?
Oh gosh, there's one brand that's like on the tip of my tongue that I cannot remember, which makes me really upset. But they do lingerie for men. That's like the lacy, like satiny stuff.
Is that like a market that's
boy.
been growing? Like, I don't know how much you've written or not about men's
I've written
lingerie.
about Menagerie.
Okay.
I was like one of the first to write about them actually, and then everybody else started writing about them, it's always interesting when that happens. And I've actually tried them personally because I love the idea of lace boxer shorts.
Yeah.
They were a little, I think I got the small in men's, and they were a little bit
big.
tight on my thighs,
Okay,
which was unfortunate. But I would definitely buy another pair because I thought they were cool.
Sure.
There are not very many lingerie companies for men. There are some, like there's another one that's like Dress X or Cross X or something like that. I don't spend a lot of time in that particular space.
Sure.
Most of what is made for men is very fetish oriented, and very like sex and sexuality oriented, which is also a space I don't spend a lot of time in. I wouldn't say it's a growing category, but it is a category that exists and is often more geared towards kind of the fetish side of the market.
Why do you want to stay away from the fetish stuff? Well, I guess for men or for any
So
people.
I'll talk about fetish lingerie. Like creepy is often seen as like fetish lingerie, even though I don't necessarily think about it like that. We talked about body harnesses recently. For me, it's a preference to not talk about like sex on my site. I think there are lots of places to get content about like what's sexy. And that's just not really what I want to offer.
So what do you want to focus on when you're writing, whether it's about some sort of I don't even know the names for this. This is how stupid I am on these things. I'm just like, I'd have to like point to pictures of my girlfriend, different types of lingerie. But like, I don't know whether it's the thing where it's, oh God, it's not like a suspender, but like it connects to a thing.
Like a harness, like a body harness?
Sure, maybe. It's not like a harness cross. It's like you might have like some fabric on a thigh, but then it connects to like a waist thing.
Yeah.
Whether you're writing about something that's very showy like that, or if it's just talking about like some plain pair of underwear that are just happen to be very comfortable, or pajamas, what is it that you want to focus on?
So I approach them all the same, from a quality perspective, from the perspective of offering options to my readers, and from the perspective of they get to choose the way they interpret that item and the way they want to wear that item and the context they want to wear it in. In general, I don't see my role as telling people how to wear the things they buy. I want people to feel like they can try whatever they want. And it's not really on me to say, if you have this body type, you should wear this, or if your size, this size, you should wear this, or you can only wear this in certain ways. I don't see that as my role. My role is to make sure people know that there are options out there for them, whatever those options might be. So obviously I'm aware that like sex is a part of lingerie and people wear it to be sexy. But in terms of, I think of what I offer to my audience and what I offer to people who are interested in lingerie, I don't feel like that's the best use of my skills or of my platform.
Did you feel like people were trying to tell you how to interact with lingerie when you were starting to try that, experiment with it, buy stuff?
Yeah, there was a lot of focus, I think, on being sexy. And like, I am not very kind of public with like my sex life, just deliberately. And I found that even talking about that a little bit would lead people to imposing or assuming or thinking you were going to go further, which I also think is just kind of part of internet culture now, where people talk, you see it like on Twitter, people just talk a lot about their sex life, which is fine. But that's not what I do. And I've also found that I get a lot of readers from all over, and readers are at different levels of comfort with those topics. Some people totally fine with it. And some people, maybe they're interested in something, but they don't know how to articulate their interest. Or if they see like an explicit reference to sex, they might like get afraid and like run away. And so, as I said, if my job is to make things accessible and make people feel comfortable, for me, part of what that looks like is just kind of presenting things factually and saying, here is this thing, here is how it's made, here's the quality you can expect, here's where you can buy it, and doing that for everything that we present. Does that make sense?
A little bit, yeah. You said you kind of fell into doing this in the first place because you were out buying lingerie for someone. I mean, what was the purpose at the time to be
my
sexy?
perspective has like developed definitely over time. So like in the beginning, like a lot of people, I thought of it mostly in like sexual terms and fetish terms. Like I started off with a lot of fully fashioned stockings, for example. I was really into corsetry. I need to go explain what fully fashioned stockings are.
Yeah, corsetry I know. Okay. I've had people on here do corset. Like I
saw your face. You were like,
thank you for seeing me. Like I had Kelly. I don't know if you're familiar with Kelly Lee DeKay.
Yeah, I love her.
I had her on years ago on the show. So like corsetry got down. What's the stocking?
Right.
Help me.
So
is that the thing where it's like you're in like from ankle to neck?
No, that's like a cat suit. Oh, totally different.
Cat suit. Okay.
Like a cat suit or a bodysuit. So fully fashioned stockings are essentially the way stockings were made in like the 50s. Okay. Stockings are knit items. So basically they're knit flat from 100% nylon, which does not stretch. Okay. It has no elastic in it. So they're knit flat. And then they're actually sewn up the back. So the back seam in a fully fashioned stocking is a functional back seam that actually holds it together. And it's sewn in the shape of the leg.
How high does this go up?
Well, it can go. I prefer to wear my stockings all the way up the leg, like to my like the very like top of my thigh. But
so when you say back, you mean the back of the leg?
Yeah. The back seam in the back of the leg.
This is how clueless I am.
Yeah. And they have reinforcement usually at the toe and the heel, because like they're 100% nylon. Right. And then they have like the welt, which is doubled over nylon. And then they are known by what's called a finishing loop, which is kind of their trademark, which is a circle in the back of the leg trying to explain, like at the very top of the back seam where it ends. Okay. So so the stockings are knit flat. Like imagine like a stocking that's been cut down the middle and it's knit almost like a sheet, right?
I believe you.
Okay. And then at the end of the process, somebody you picture a needle like pulling both edges of the stocking together and knitting it up the back, like in a back seam, right?
Yeah.
Except this is a back seam that is actually like a seam that is holding two sides of a thing together, as opposed to just being decoration.
Okay.
Which most back seams are just they're just there because they're cute.
But you were saying you were originally going there like most people for sexual, like, to be sexy, sexual.
Yeah.
And
then as I became more immersed in the field and as I learned more about it, learned more about different types of items, learned more about what was actually out there and the complexity of this industry, my interest shifted away from that. And then also as I I think became in some ways more private. And also as I got serious with my now partner and realizing there are a lot of things I actually don't want people to have access to. And one way to limit that access is to be very careful with what I present and with what I talk about. And also, and this is, I mean, it's not the best thing, but it's kind of the world we live in. To be taken seriously, I think, in the fashion industry does require some desexualization of the topic. And so I also realized pretty early on, once I started shifting more into expertise and once my blog became like less of a personal blog and more of a blog about the topic in general, that part of it becoming larger as a platform, part of it making the topic more accepted, unfortunately, like in America, was going to be stripping a lot of the sexuality out of it.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. In terms of how you were presenting your work, I guess, and without going into your sex life, just what is your relationship with lingerie yourself? Like, do you still sometimes view it as sexual? Or are you the person who I'm home alone tonight, I'm going to put some stuff on and put on some good music?
I am the second person. Yeah. and even with my friends who are often like, probably if you're friends with me, you're also into lingerie. Like we'll have like robe parties or like pajama parties where it's just like we bring all our favorite things and we like trade them around and like wear each other's stuff because like, oh, I have like this velvet robe. And like, that's not made anymore. And they'll be like, oh, I want to try that. Or somebody has like silk pajamas that like, I can't afford. and so I'll try that.
We all know why we invited Alice. She's got the silk pajamas.
And then, I mean, there are also things that obviously that I wear that make me feel like attractive or sexy. But in terms of kind of what I want to present to the general public, because now there are lots and lots of people like reading what I have to say and reading reading my site. I tend to be very deliberate kind of, I think, with what I share and what I present, in terms of like that perspective on lingerie. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense to me. I'm curious, someone who is curious about entering lingerie, and I'm sure you have a specific blog post about this. So like, obviously everyone should be going checking out your site at the end. But someone new who's like maybe intimidated by even checking out this industry, maybe a woman or like a femme present person who's like, I really want to get into lingerie, no idea what the fuck to do. Like, what would you say? What would you tell them, like, the first step? Like, when someone says, I want to get into BDSM, I'll tell them, you go to a munch. Start with that. And maybe it's some light spanking. What would be that, like, equivalent in lingerie? What's, like, an entry level thing?
I feel like loungewear is a great way to enter this space. Robes, specifically. I just had a drink of water, so I'm going to pull away from the mic for a second.
It's okay.
Because they are size flexible. There are lots of varieties. There are sheer robes if you're looking for something that's really seductive and pretty. There are velvet robes if you want something that's like more focused on like warmth or luxury. There are fleece robes, which I need to get another one of because it's like freezing rain outside right now. And they're sold in a lot of places. So if you're not comfortable ordering from one site, you can find them on another. They're not the sort of thing where like maybe you're in a place or in a position where you can't share your interest. For example, maybe like you're transitioning or you're a cross-dresser or something like that, and you might be afraid of someone discovering your interest. They're the sort of thing that's just kind of like very easy.
Someone going through your closet's not going to be like, I think James is a cross-dresser. No one's going to find that in your closet because it's like, oh, so James got a cool robe. No idea what he does in that robe, but good for him.
So I feel like robes are a really great intro, or something like a caftan or pajama set. But I feel like robes, because there's such a variety, such a versatility, such a size range.
And it seems like a discretion as well.
Right. Yeah. Like if you have, I don't know, like a black satin robe or like a black velvet robe. I feel like that's going to just be the sort of thing, if you are worried, that people are just going to kind of skim over. So yeah, I think robes are a great way, and also a way that feels just frivolous enough. Because in America, a lot of people don't like the idea of wearing something impractical and wearing something, and I'm sure like in your world it's very different.
I mean, also look at me, like I am all practical.
Right. Like that's a very American thing. Like in France, in Switzerland, other places, like there's a different culture around intimate apparel. But in America, it's very practical oriented, which is why like t-shirt bras are the most popular item here, because it's very American.
What's a t-shirt bra?
It's a contour cut bra.
It sounds like the turducken of intimate wear.
It's a foam dome, basically. And that is the shape that Americans are most comfortable with, and it's a shape that's most popular here.
Okay.
So what was I saying? Right.
No, you answered it.
A robe is a sort of item.
You said start with some loungewear, something kind of comfy and
something that is going to feel like that is not too frivolous or too impractical.
It's also not tight if you're someone who's like me. I mean, once I got the menagerie, it was great, but once I was really nervous about wearing out. I was like, I'm about to be wearing something insanely tight, basically skin tight in public, and like I am not the most bodily confident human in the world, and
which
so
is true for a lot of people,
right? Exactly.
Yeah.
So something that's very loose in a way that can still have a sensual feel if you want it, or just a relaxed feel.
Exactly. You can wear it at home. You can wear it out. I mean, I love just wearing my robes, just like chilling on the couch.
There's something about a robe that I feel like can make, like, there's a sense of power you can like draw from having a robe. I don't know. Maybe it's just like from my dad having like really heavy bathrobes growing up. Like,
right.
But like, so there's something about like a robe is like powerful. You think Hugh Hefner, like whatever your thoughts on Hugh are.
It just feels like very elegant, like naturally elegant. I love effortless elegance where you put on a thing and you don't have to do anything else.
Yeah. You don't need to call a friend to like, draw it up in the back.
Like you put on the robe and you're done. Like, and I also like that. So that would be, I think, my suggestion for people that are new.
Okay. And something obviously that's like big in the, whether it's underwear, fashion, intimate apparel is the diversity of what's being offered and sizes, and something we talked about in the beginning about, demand and buying things. This from my point of view as dumb man person is it seems like we're on a upward trajectory of improving.
Yes.
What still needs to be improved? Is it the actual things being offered? Is it the marketing of said things? What needs to be worked on still? Well,
we have definitely improved from where we started. Like there's no question there that the industry is much better and much more accessible than it was a decade ago in every way. In terms of places we can improve, because I don't think diversity is a destination. I don't think inclusivity is a destination. It's a thing you are always like approaching and trying to get better at. More sizes, absolutely. It gets very difficult to find nice lingerie in those high 40 bands, like say a 48 or in the 50s. And there are people who wear those band sizes. And there are reasons behind why it gets more difficult to make a bra or to make a garment in those larger sizes. But
you mean like functionally, like literally making it can be more, okay.
Yeah. Literally, there's, I know I'm about to get like a little bit technical. I've gone on so many tangents today.
Please, look, you are the expert. That's why you are here.
But there are what's called size breaks in bras specifically, where the construction and the materials of the bra have to change significantly, but not in a way, hopefully, that customers notice, which is the trick. Because if customers see the difference, they get upset because they want, like fuller breasted customers or plus size customers want their garments look exactly the same as they do for smaller sizes. But there have to be significant changes in how the garment is made. Sometimes it looks like more seams because seams equal support.
Okay.
Sometimes that looks like
by the way, that's the thing I've understood the most this entire hour.
Yes, like
seems
it's math.
Equal support of like I get that.
Yes, it's actually math and physics. And it might mean like using a heavier power mesh or like a reinforced lace that can better support like the weight of the bust.
Okay.
Or like the broader back. Sometimes it might look like thicker or cushioned straps. It might look like heavier underwires or more sturdy underwires. So there's a lot of changes that happen When you shift from like a D to a double D cup into like the D to G range, there's like another size break around that GH cup, kind of going from there to the JK cup range. There are also changes as you shift from 38 bands into 40 bands, and then from like mid 40s into like higher 40s, where the bra has to change or it basically just fails. It just doesn't work.
Okay. And so, but we're offering more of these things that
We're
you just
offering more of
described
those
that I'm
things.
sure that the women
Yes.
listening totally understand what you're talking about. Me, I am just like,
A lot of people, they like, hopefully if somebody is a good designer, they're able to make those changes in a way the average customer won't notice. Like, will I see the difference? Like, will I see that there are like 4 seams now instead of 3? Like, obviously, because I'm me.
right. But like I won't, or like regular customer, hopefully.
Right.
Won't.
Exactly.
But so you think so more sizes, what you think
More
the industry still
sizes,
needs? Is there anything
yes.
else they're like blatantly missing?
I
Because
would
also changes
say
don't happen overnight, but
Right.
is there anything where you're like, they're not even trying it?
more nude tones from all brands. I mean,
And I think I mostly am saying for the men listening, a nude tone is.
oh, so it's like a skin tone.
Yeah.
I
knew that
Yeah.
one, but I think there might be some guys who don't.
So a bra that basically blends in and with your
Right.
skin tone. This is something that darker skinned women, in particular women of color, Black women, have not had enough access to.
Right.
And we are seeing changes in the industry with regards to that, but we can always see more. It would be nice to have as many bras for my skin tone as like white women have beige bras.
Yeah.
And I think marketing in the industry can do so much better. I know the example everybody is thinking and talking about now is Victoria's Secret, which has just, I do not understand why they didn't make changes. It's just so foolish. But anyway,
No, but I mean, it is.
it's just not like all those MBAs and all those experts. How did you? Okay. But I think the way the industry can and should market to consumers is different. I'm not talking about brands like Savage X, which
Yeah.
is doing fine. But kind of those, what I call legacy brands in the industry. So brands like, say, a Simone Perel, a Notori, which is doing much better, a Hanky Panky. Like, these are all brands I love. So these
Hanky
aren't
Panky's a brand. Okay.
right. So these aren't brands like I'm trashing, because they might listen to this. I don't like, they know I love them. I'm not trashing them.
But like also, pay her to consult because she can probably help you
Right.
out.
But even brands like, Made Form, Vanity Fair, Wacol, like these kinds of companies, which are large companies. Chantel is another large one. We should see more diverse advertising campaigns from them. We should see them reaching out more directly to customers to explain like what they're doing and why it's good and why it's different. Because I do think consumers today, they want information. Like, they genuinely want to know more about their clothes, but the information largely isn't there. Like, I'm just one person, and most people don't know about me. If there was more information from brands and from the industry side, I think it will make a tremendous difference. Like, we see this in beauty, right? The beauty industry invests so much money in educating customers, whether that's through like their site, through advertising, through influencer campaigns. There is so much invested in basically telling people, this is why our product is worth the money and you should spend money on it.
So why isn't intimate apparel, despite every time you put out like a really inclusive ad, it goes viral? Why are some just still not?
The intimate apparel industry, which might surprise you, is a very conservative industry, and they are very slow to change and resistant to change. I mean, it took years before most lingerie brands thought they needed a website, before they thought they needed like a Facebook page or a Twitter or an Instagram, before they thought they needed to kind of care or reach out to customers at all. Like, so the way the old kind of lingerie sales model was built was you would go to trade shows, or like boutiques would go to trade shows and some press, and boutiques place their order, or they place an order with like an agent that comes to their boutique. And then the garments come to the boutique, and the boutique handles like the selling and the press and the marketing. But most boutiques are also bad at that. Like, a lot of them, they don't have websites. They don't reach out directly to customers. And so a lot of people just don't know what they're looking at. Like, you told me about Menagerie, and I know them and I've worn them. But like, I know what kind of lace they use, for example. Like, and that's not, and I know like what went into their pricing. Even like, this isn't a conversation like he's told me, but like, I can tell from like looking at the product, like what went into it. And most people, they don't, and that's okay. Like, you only know what you know. But I think if there was more time spent on telling people what they're seeing that it would make a big difference. Because then you would know how to find other things like that, for example, right? Or like what to recommend to your friends, or how to know if something's worth the money. And so that would be, that's something that I really wish there was more investment in.
Is paying people like you to tell people about what's going on with their brand.
Well, I think I'm a little too like
The
vocal
products.
and loudmouth, like people, because brands can like just tell me what to say and I repeat it. So I'm like, that's not, like, you guys know that's not true.
Well, I guess one last question I have is what do you think, and I'm going to say specifically, what do you think like cis men need to understand about intimate apparel?
That it's not for them. This would be the biggest thing. I think there's a tendency from a lot of cis men to think lingerie is being worn for them or for their gaze. And that's not true. Like, even before now, lingerie should be for the wearer. And to not assume, sorry, thank you. My microphone was tripping.
It's just what you're saying is so important. I didn't want to get soft.
That it's not for them. To, I think, be encouraging of their partner if they want to try it without being overbearing. Like, I used to get emails, not so much now, probably because I wasn't very nice about them, but emails from men and be like, how could I convince my wife to wear lingerie? And I'm like, you can't, stop.
Also, let's break down the way you like constructed the question. Convince.
Yeah,
so-
like that's like, clearly she doesn't want to, so stop.
Right.
That's my advice to you.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel. Like, it's like, create a space maybe for your partner to experiment without deciding what you want to see them in. Like, this comes up around the holidays, particularly, which is when we're recording this, where it comes up about like lingerie gifting. And a lot of cis men will be like, well, essentially buy their partner what they want to see their partner in, which is not a gift. You should buy your partner what they will like best. And so it's things like that, like moving away from seeing lingerie as something that's for you to look at and think of it as a way for your partner to be maybe be more sensual or explore things they're interested in or to be more comfortable. And I would love to see that shift from cis men.
Like, maybe get her a nice silk robe.
Yeah, I think that's great.
It's not the fishnet bodysuit you maybe wanted, but maybe that's what's going to make her comfy.
Right. And I would really love to see more of that.
All right. Well, Cora, thank you so much for chatting with me.
Thank you for bringing me. I hope I didn't
Oh
go
gosh,
on like
are you kidding
too
me?
much.
I'm embarrassed
Okay.
at how much I stumble. I feel I was trying to make a note that in the intro I was like, I need to mention how like I ran into a lot of brick walls because I'm stupid. So thank you for being patient with me. You were fantastic, and I think people should definitely go follow you on Twitter. You're a great Twitter follow, and also check out your site. You have a book. So where can people find you? What's the book? Where can they go?
So name of my site is The Lingerie Addict. You can find me at thelingerieaddict.com. I'm also on Twitter at lingerie_addict, on Instagram at thelingerieaddict. My email, if you want to reach out to me there, is Cora at thelingerieaddict.com. And the name of my book is An Intimate Detail, and you can find it basically at any major bookstore, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. There's probably some used copies floating around out there now, like in your like local Goodwill or.
Oh, go
store
buy
like
new.
that.
Hey. You said you got to go buy some bra when they put out your special 28 band. I listened 28 because I guess 26 and 30 were too comfy. You put the 28 band thing out. You got to go buy it, and then you got to go buy your book full price.
And
too.
then also it's on Amazon and Kindle. Like right now it's $5. Who knows, it'll be $5 when this comes out. But like that's also a thing to check because usually it's less expensive than a hardcover.
You're way too kind to the consumer right there. Go check her out. Thank you so much, everybody. And why don't you go say goodbye to everyone?
All right. Well, thank you all for listening. I hope you learned a lot. And thank you again for having me on the show.
I hope you enjoyed this week's jam-packed episode. All right, everybody. Make sure to go follow Jesse Sage. Go follow David Piccolomini, and of course, go follow Cora Harrington and learn the ins and outs of intimate apparel. Her site is thelingerieaddict.com. The best place to share what you thought about this week's episode is in the episode comment thread in our patron-only Facebook group, The Champagne Room, which you can gain access to at patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. Other places to share what you thought are on social media. I'm on Twitter at @TheBillyPresida. I'm on Instagram at BillyIsPresida. I know a lot of you think you're following me on Instagram. I promise you, you're not, because I lost my Instagram some time ago. It's complicated. If you enjoy sex-positive memes and fun updates about the pod, go like the Man Whore Podcast Facebook page. And if you want to talk to me a little bit more intimately, if you want to share your thoughts with me directly, you can shoot me an email at manwhorepod@gmail.com. I am driving like 10, 11, 12, I can't count anymore how many hours, driving all the way out to Denver here from Columbia, Missouri, and then I'm on to Vegas. Next week we've got fellow stand-up comedian Caitlin Rupert. Such a delight. And you know what? I'll spoil it right now. I've also got Cast That Porn with Rosa Escandone, #Rosa is hot. Hope you enjoyed Cora, and I hope you all stay slutty.